The 12 tribes of Israel. The tribe of Joseph. Genesis chapter 30, verses 22 to 24. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. In Genesis chapter 49, verse 1 and verses 22 to 26. And Jacob called his sons and said, gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a well. His branches run over the wall. The archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. By the God of your father who will help you, and by the Almighty who will bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of your father have excelled the blessings of my ancestors up to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him who was separate from his brothers. 12 tribes of Israel, from 12 different brothers, all the sons of Jacob, but from 4 different mothers. Leah bore him 6 of them, while 2 came from Zilpah. Rachel bore another 2, and 2 more came from Bilhah. Joseph was 11th, a gift from heaven's throne. At last, a babe for Rachel, and a son to call her own. Such sorrow she'd experienced, but now her soul was glad. The meaning of this brother's name translates as he will add. Rachel's words reveal she hoped for yet another son. God had not forgotten her. Another child would come. But moving on to Jacob's words, it's very clear to see he had a lot within his heart regarding prophecy. He said this son was fruitful, blessing many with his days, yet full of persecution for his holy, righteous ways. But Joseph's strength was found in God, and so, instead of hate, he offered his forgiveness and did not retaliate. Surrendering his days to God, although he'd been betrayed, he used these circumstances so that many might be saved. Joseph's life was powerful and blessed by God his king. With double the inheritance, 2 tribes would come from him. But Jacob's words can also speak of glory yet to come, for Joseph is a type of Christ, a picture of God's Son, reflecting the Messiah and the time of tribulation. Joseph represents the one who'll reign and rule each nation. Romans chapter 14, verse 8. For if we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. Therefore, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's. And Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Insight to Joseph. After years of heartache, barrenness, and competing with her sister Leah, Rachel finally conceives and gives birth to a son whom she names Joseph. The verse begins with the words, "Then God remembered Rachel." This is a Hebrew phrase, and the text is not saying that God had forgotten Rachel prior to this. It's simply a particular way of saying God began to move on behalf of Rachel. In other words, this was God's hand at work in Rachel's life. The passage then goes on to say, and God listened to her and opened her womb. Clearly, the credit for Rachel having a baby doesn't go to the mandrakes mentioned earlier in this chapter, as these would have been long gone by now. Since the debate over the mandrakes, enough time had passed to allow Leah to give birth to 2 sons and a daughter, so it's very evident that Rachel conceiving a son was through the Lord's doing, not some old wives' tale or superstition. After giving birth, Rachel declares, "God has taken away my reproach." This statement highlights the pressure and judgment Rachel felt she was under from the culture of that day. At the birth of Joseph, she clearly feels vindicated and, with a hopeful heart, goes on to say, "The Lord shall add to me another son." This comment instantly reveals Rachel's longing for yet more children, continuing the competition with her sister to be Jacob's most valuable wife. It also gives us the meaning of Joseph's name, which is, he will add. And as we go on to read later in Genesis chapter 35, God did indeed add another baby to Rachel and Jacob with Joseph's little brother, Benjamin. It would be reasonable to think that Joseph, the firstborn son to Rachel, Jacob's dearly beloved wife, would be the key child used by the Lord to further his redemptive purposes through this family. While it's undeniable that Joseph did play an important role in God's unfolding plan, his line was not the line through whom the Messiah would come. As we saw back in April, the Saviour of the world would actually come through Jacob's 4th son, Judah, son of Leah, the unloved wife. The scriptures show us time and time again that God's ways are not our ways. They are clearly way above and beyond the ways of man.